Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am here with another weekly wrap up, and it was a very productive week for me, much better than I have been doing lately. Probably in big thanks, or mostly in big thanks, to the Mafia Romance Readathon and reading sprints and all of that have really helped. So I want to get started right away because I have 9 books to talk about and I don't want this video to be over an hour long. So let's go ahead and get started with my weekly reads. Okay guys, so this last week has been really great. I was co-hosting for the Mafia Romance Readathon, and so most of my books are going to be Mafia, but I did have arcs and other things that I still had to read this week, so those will also be in here. But it was really great. It really pushed me. I love readathons. They really push you to read more, so I'm hoping this month will be a lot better than my last couple months of reading, because I've been kind of reading 7 or less books a week lately. So 9 books this week was, better. But I don't know. I just have so much to get to for May because I have just now started. I'm rereading The Highlander from Kerrigan Byrne because I need to start getting on the historical romance now for the Ever Afterathon. I had to focus 100% on my first week of just doing Mafia. Fortunately, with that Ever Afterathon, I'm team governess, so a lot of those can give me at least dark points and stuff for my team. But now I need to buckle down and be focusing on historical romance so I can get all those extra points because our team is in last place. So I really want to get things going. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started because I have 9 to talk about, and we know what I do. I talk and talk and talk about the books. So, anyways, strap in, I guess, and we'll see. Hopefully this will not be too long, but you never know with me. You never know. We actually just finished the live show for the Mafia Readathon, so everybody got to submit, kind of figure out where they landed on the board of if you're Don or Donna, or the bottom was an enforcer. So if you did participate and you just weren't able to make the live, make sure you head over to Jen's channel. You can kind of see the points announcement and wrap up and all of that. It was such a great time, and a big thank you to Jen for including me in this. I was so excited and honored to be a part of the Mafia Romance Readathon because it is my favorite, and I'm just so excited. So anyways, I gabbed already too long at the beginning of this. Let's get started on my books. So the first one I had was Destroy Me by Michelle Hurd. Now I'm in the middle of one Michelle Hurd series, but this one hit Bratva and kind of like a fairy tale retelling prompt. So I went ahead and picked this up, and it is actually currently available on Audible Plus. I think only the first book is available on Audible Plus, unfortunately, but I'm not positive on that. So don't take me at my word. I'm thinking that's only the first book, but this is the first book in the Corrupted Royals series, and this is about Misha and Aurora. And Misha and Aurora actually meet at a nightclub one night. They really hit it off. They're really into each other, immediate connection, and stuff goes down at the club where they even get caved into a room. And so they are kind of stuck together. She's really badly wounded and he's trying to take care of her. And, she's a virgin, and she finally gets a kiss from him. And so they're really smitten. And then when they get rescued, he finds out that she is actually an Italian mafia princess and actually the family of their enemy. So the Bratva and the Italian mafia are currently at war. And so he is immediately nope, hate her, have to hate her now because of her family. So anyways, 2 years pass, and now Aurora is going to this academy. It is called the Monarch Academy, and it's kind of reminds me of the Kingmakers with Sophie Lark, where it's a school for the mafia to hone their skills and all that kind of stuff. So she is going there with her best friend, and he is there, and he becomes super hateful, bully, totally mean to her, and she doesn't understand why he's so hateful to her until she realizes, oh, okay, he's an enforcer for the Bratva, and so that's kind of what's going on there. But she's very not well trained to be in this environment. Like, they are kind of like the posh, like, rich girl type of attitude, and now they're being thrown into severe training and like brutal training, and where they're beating the shit out of each other type of stuff. Reminds me of like a little bit of Divergent, you know? And so she's woefully, like, badly not prepared for this, and she's kind of like can't believe her father did this and not prepare her for this, because she gets like the shit beat out of her at one point. And Misha still feels very protective over her, even though he knows he's supposed to hate her. And so he ends up kind of getting in there and helping out, and then he gets paired with her to train her. And so they start to kind of work together, and they can't deny their connection, obviously. And this is kind of giving you like Romeo and Juliet vibes. That's why I did this one for the, like, it's got rival families, fairy tale retelling type of thing. And so this one hit some good prompts for me. It didn't blow me away. I thought it was good, but it was like very insta-lust type of situation. But that is kind of what Romeo and Juliet is too. So I enjoyed this. They're currently at war. So like the Bratva could go after her and her family anytime. So that's what he's concerned about being with her, because he would be the one that would have to kill her. So he has to figure out how they can like really be together. So it was good. It felt more very like young adult type of feeling compared to the one I read previously, which was Craving Danger from last week, which I enjoyed more. But I gave this 4 stars. It was a solid 4 stars for me. I did listen to the audiobook again on that. I'm sorry I didn't put the narrators on here. I apologize. But I gave it 4 stars, and then it was 3.5 chilies. Okay, so then I finally read one that has been on my TBR for I don't even know how many years. And I finally read it, and that is Crowe by A Zavarelli. This is the first book in the Boston Underworld series, and I know a lot of people really love this book and love this series, so I was interested to finally get into it. I just had never picked it up. It's been so long, and it's just been sitting there. And then I actually won this copy being on Jen's Patreon for the Book Refuge. And so I thought that this is the perfect opportunity, the Mafia Readathon, to read this book, and then I can read her annotations at the same time. And it's always a great time. So I thought this was pretty good. It didn't blow me away. I do think it was written before 2020, I think it was, so it hit that prompt. But yeah, this was copyright 2016, so it's pretty old school. So I think if I read it a while back, I probably would have connected to it more, or like loved it at that time. But with the Mafia that I'm reading now, I just think, it's okay. It's good. It's solid. But what the setup of this is we have Mackenzie. She goes by Mac. She is a really tough, badass type of chick. She's grown up on the streets. She has her ride or die best friends that really they protected each other growing up on the streets and surviving and going through everything together. And her best friend had disappeared, and she can't get anybody to help her. The police are kind of just brushing it off, not listening to her. And so she decides that she's going to take it into her own hands to investigate. And what that means is she needs to get the attention of the Irish Mafia, because that was her friend was working at their like high-end strip club. And then she disappeared, so she thinks like they might have had something to do with it, or it might have been the Bratva that was also involved. And so she ends up getting into this underground fighting thing that the Irish put on, and she's actually can do MMA pretty well. She's a really scrappy, like really badass. And I thought that was a really great introduction, where she was able to go toe to toe with like a huge guy and beat him. And so that was really cool. And it got the eye of Crowe. And so he saw her and was just like, who the F is this? Then she shows up at his club to try and get a job, and he was very suspicious, didn't want her around, but she kind of pushes her way in and is able to become one of the strippers at the club. That doesn't last long. She literally does it like one night or whatever, and Crowe can't handle the men looking at her. He's very possessive over her, so he's like, you're not doing that. You can do like the opening and like you keep your clothes on and you're an appetizer. So I thought that was funny. So Anyway, she's working at this club and trying to get information. She needed to be one of the strippers because she wanted to be backstage where like all the stuff goes down. So she's trying to figure out who is involved and all of that. And as this happens, Crowe basically becomes obsessed with her and then realizes, you know what, he wants to keep a closer eye on her, and he ends up kind of just like moving her into his place, and they immediately start hooking up. So this was very spicy. They were all in on each other. I did like the hero. I thought that he was very alpha, and I loved his possessiveness and all of that. But what was kind of lacking in this a little bit to me was she was there to find her friend, find out what happened to her friend. And once she started banging Crowe, it became all about Crowe. And she wasn't really as focused on it anymore. And I thought she hid that for way too long because it's obvious that Crowe had nothing to do with it. There's some trigger warnings in this for like sex trafficking and all that, kidnapping and violence, all of that kind of stuff. And it's another mafia that is involved in like the sex trafficking that you would think that she would kind of realize it has nothing to do with her man. Oh, I think it's Lachlan. I keep calling him Crowe, but that's like whatever. Anyways, so she like should have put it together, like it's not him, let me go to him and tell him the truth, and then he could be another asset for her. And she just makes a lot of too stupid to live decisions, and you don't see her badass fighting behavior anymore. So I liked how she was introduced and her whole thing, that whole setup, but then she became like not a badass anymore, and so that was kind of a letdown. But I did really enjoy this. I think it was a little over the top, like who the person was who is responsible, and that whole storyline of what happened to her friend was a little over the top and kind of like cringy villain type of thing. And I don't know, I just didn't totally buy into it. So that is all to say, I still really enjoyed it. It just didn't blow me away. I think it was probably really great when it was released for its time, but I've read better. But I definitely do want to continue in the series because I am interested in a couple of the characters and where it's going to go. So I will definitely continue. I just don't know if it's right away because I have so much other stuff I have to get to. But I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And then, what did I have? 3 chilies. Okay, so then I read an arc, and this is actually my first historical romance, so it actually did count for some good points in my other readathon. So, but this is Legionary Seduction, and this is by Jenna Bigelow. This is the 2nd book in the Roman Heirs series, and I have not read the first book, but I did read the novella, because if you like get her like a newsletter or whatever, you can get the novella. And I had seen Jen talking about it, so I thought I would give the novella a try. It was decent, you know, it's novella. So this was the first full book that I've read from this author, and this is set in like ancient Roman times. So I really love that because you don't get a lot of books set then, and so I love reading super old historical type of romances. And this is a second chance childhood friends to lovers type of story. We have Max, and he is actually a part of the Roman, army. He kind of joined to get away. He didn't really like being in Rome. He liked being out in the city, kind of traveling and adventure. So that's kind of why he joined. And he's currently, I can't remember which location he's in, I'm sorry, but he's currently stationed there. And he's kind of not the best soldier. He's had a lot of opportunities if he was better to be promoted, but he just hasn't. He's kind of flighty. He shows up late to things. And he's like very into his horse. He bought this horse himself, and it's like his pride and joy, which I really loved that part of this because, I'm a horse girly. I love the horse stuff. And so he really just wanted to ride his horse a little bit longer and enjoy being by the ocean, riding his horse. And so he shows up late to the new governor arriving. So he kind of sneaks into lines, gets ready, and the new governor is there. And lo and behold, the wife comes out, and it is one of his friends that he used to had a really great friendship with. Their friends were both kind of like in politics together, so they were kind of friends. He was adopted, so he was, you know, on the streets in a bad situation, and this couple adopted him. I think that's the first book, is like his parents' romance. So I'd be interested to read that one. But he is adopted, so he's like her father, like the heroine's father considers him less than because it came from the streets, you know, and he's not legitimate. He was adopted by them. The heroine's father is a really annoying asshole in this, let me just tell you. But they were very close, and they had a really good friendship, but they were like kind of pining for each other. He was very into her, very in love with her. And so they end up kissing that night. And I think she actually was the one that made the move on the kisses a couple times in this book, which I really appreciated, seeing a heroine go after it. But they get caught kissing, and her father basically says she cannot see him anymore. He's less than their family, all of that. And so, you know, she's about to be like promised to somebody of importance and all of that. So he basically joins the army, and they haven't seen each other for about, I think it's like 10 years. And now she's been the governor's wife. She has a child with him. The child is not there because he's staying in Rome because of like health and other reasons. He didn't want to come. So now he got a punishment where he has to actually like guard the governor's household because he showed up late. And so he planned to kind of try and stay away from her, but now that he's guarding the household, they definitely run into each other. And, you know, the sparks are still there. He's still very into her, but, you know, she's a married woman of means. And, you know, it's different classes type of thing in this. So, but things happen where her husband is killed. It seems like he had a mysterious death, but it seems more like poisoning, like somebody might have killed him. The thing with her and her husband, they have like a pretty loveless marriage. They had sex maybe to have the child, and that's about it. He has his own like secretary, a male, like he prefers men. And so that guy is always with him as his lover and like secretary type of thing. So she's kind of been stuck in this loveless marriage for a long time. And now that her husband has died, she thinks that something nefarious happened, and she's very concerned. And so she actually asks Max for help to on her journey back to Rome. So he's going to be part of her escort team to go back to Rome, and she kind of wanted his help looking into this. And so they go on this road trip to Rome, and things kind of fall apart. People are after her, you know, all the stuff with her husband and her being suspicious. And so they end up kind of on their own at a certain point, and it's almost like their own little like road trip to try and get her back to Rome so they can go after these people and get justice for her husband and all of that. So I really enjoyed this one. I thought the writing was good. I thought it was a very sweet, it's like low angst. It's very cute. I always enjoy a good like road trip together type of surviving on the road together. So it was good. I thought it was a very decent second chance. The heroine kind of annoyed me at certain points because she loves him, but she's like, I can't be with you because I need somebody better for like my son's future type of thing, and I just didn't love that. But I gave this one 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, next I had an ALC, and this was Stolen Dreams by Natasha Madison. You know, I've been loving this Dreams series. This is, I don't know if it's the final book, but it is the 4th book in the Dreams series. And this is between Emmett and Lila. When I saw this come out, I was like, who's the couple gonna be? Because like we kind of already resolved everything with the first book, Shattered Dreams. It sets up this big accident where, you know, a couple of the people died and how that trauma really affected all those couples and like kind of like the long-term effects of that. And we've kind of resolved that with each of those couples. So I was kind of confused on who this was supposed to be. And this is actually like this, Emmett is one of the like bosses at the, let me remember what it's called, Mustang Creek Ranch, which is the ranch that has like horse therapy and all that kind of stuff that the hero from Shattered Dreams, you know, runs. So that's the tie-in, I guess. I don't know. I felt that this wasn't as connected to as the other ones all felt really connected. So that's my one thing I'll say about it. But in this, we have Emmett and Lila, and Lila actually was assaulted and attacked, left for dead by her boyfriend 8 years ago. And she really went through a lot of trauma and recovery for that. So she actually did go to do this horse therapy, and she loved it so much. She's an avid rider and really good with horses. And so she ends up getting a job there, and Emmett is her like grumpy asshole boss. She's been crushing on him for years, but he always kind of pushes her away, gives her attitude, and is kind of like a dick to her. So we definitely have the grumpy sunshine in here. Now at the beginning of this, Emmett finds out that he has a daughter he didn't know about. I think she's 8 years old. But he finds out the mother had died, and the daughter was going to kind of be put into like foster care, which he had to go through. He has a very traumatic background too with, his whole backstory, which I'm not going to go too deep into that, but that was really sad what he went through. And so he did not want that for this daughter. And so he basically goes to get her. Now, this daughter was very traumatized and lost her only mother and didn't really know him, so it was a tough road of him trying to gain her trust. But like, this girl bonds with Lila immediately, and they kind of like form a connection, and so that's like really helpful to Emmett. Now, Emmett's been broody and rude to her because she works for him, and he just kind of doesn't think he can do relationships. He doesn't think he's good. He thinks of himself as evil because of his mother and his backstory. So that is like the main hang up, the main block in this is how he thinks of himself. And he thinks he's evil, damaged, and shouldn't be with anybody. So also, Lila is kind of getting calls from her ex, trying to apologize for what happened. And then she's also having weird kind of break-ins to her place. And she's kind of has a stalker situation. And so when things get kind of crazy, Emmett was like, no, you need to come move into my place. So she ends up moving in with him. And of course, now they're in even more forced proximity. So they're not going to be able to deny, their attraction and wanting to be together. And it was like a really cute unit of them all being there for his daughter and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it was cute. I didn't love this as much as the other books in the series. Again, it just felt a little bit disconnected. I thought there was a lot of dark content in this one. And I don't know, like, hold on. I think I have my trigger warnings. I forgot to write them down. Okay, so I did find my trigger warnings here real quick because, obviously we have the stuff with the stalker. I think the heavy stuff too is from like what happened in their past. And I don't think we dealt enough with the trauma from their past and working through it and like talking about it together. I just didn't feel as much of an intimacy and like dealing with that. So we did have previous assault, again, when she was attacked and almost killed, trauma, abusive parent, death of a parent by murder, stalking, kidnapping. And the kidnapping thing gets really dark. So anyways, it's crazy. So while I did like the third act suspense, the suspense element was pretty good. I just didn't feel as connected to this one, and I didn't love all the choices of the hero. And so I ended up just giving this one 4 stars. The other books in the series, I gave the first book 6 stars. And the other ones, I think I gave 5 stars. So this one just didn't hit the same level as much as the other books, but it was still really good. Now, this was an ALC, so I did get the audiobook, and this was narrated in dual narration by Gregory Salinas and Savannah Peachwood. So the audiobook was really good. Always great audiobooks, and flew through that one. So I gave it 4 stars, 2.5 chilies. Okay, real quickly, I'm not going to go into this because I've already talked about this book a ton, but I did a reread of God of Fury because this was Jess's pick for the readathon, and this is my favorite Rina Kent. This is my favorite MM. I have a vlog where a spoiler vlog where I read this book. I actually had to do this book in just one vlog instead of like multiple in a vlog like I usually do, because I talked about it a lot. So if you want to see me crying and gushing in full depth so you can get the full review or whatever, it's there. So I will try to link that or put it up above for you guys. But I want to do a reread of it because I love it so much. And I had gotten the audiobook for a while back. So I really wanted to listen to it on audiobook because it is narrated by Teddy Hamilton and Shane East in duet narration. There's female narrators mixed in there, but basically that's the two that's just featuring the other narrators. And the duet narration was so good. Like, this book is still a 6-star for me. It's one of my favorite romances, the best Rina Kent. I love Nico and Brandon so much. These characters it's just so moving. I had to be careful while listening to this because I didn't want to listen to it at work because I know there's certain parts where I bawled hysterically reading it. So I did not want to be at work doing that. So I had to kind of space it out between times that I wasn't at work because I just didn't trust myself to not lose it. But anyways, I'm not going to say much because I've already talked about this book so many times. So, like, it's just, you know. But needless to say, it's still a 6-star. And honestly, Teddy Hamilton and Shane East were freaking perfection. If you don't have the audiobook, I highly recommend it. They did such a phenomenal job. And the emotional parts, they just brought it all. And this is why side rant. This is why I'm so irritated and I don't want to see it anymore with this AI narration shit. Because Teddy Hamilton and Shane East have worked their whole careers. They've worked their whole lives to have that kind of a, you know, emotional and performance. They're performing. They're actors. They're voice actors. They do such an amazing job. And so you're taking jobs away from men that and women that have been doing this their whole careers. And it just pisses me off. Sorry, I didn't think I was going to get on this side tangent. But anyways, I get mad. Like, if I see a book that has virtual voice or whatever on Audible, like, I'm not going to listen to it. I will only listen to something that is narrated by somebody. And Teddy Hamilton and Shane East are two of my favorite narrators, and they just bring forth so much passion and the sexual angst and chemistry and just everything in this book. So anyways, loved it. Still 6 stars. Highly recommend it. Anyways. Okay, so then I needed a single dad romance, and I didn't really have one. It was like the only bingo board prompt that I was missing, and I wanted to black out my bingo. So I decided to use an Audible credit and get Sinful Vows by Lillian Harris. This is the first book in the Messina crime family. Now, I started her on her ARC team with like the Irish Mafia, so I hadn't read any of this Mafia series yet, so I thought this was a perfect time to get it. And this is between Michael and Elsie, and there is a lot of dark content in this one because Elsie was actually a victim. She is being sex trafficked for 9 years. She went through hell. Her and her friends all got like captured together. And so she's been split from one of them, and she's, you know, just going through hell in this being sex trafficked. The amount of trauma she would have after that long is just devastating. And so she actually gets an opportunity one night when Michael shows up and his car is like out there, and she sneaks out into his car to escape. And he ends up driving up into his garage, and so now she's kind of stuck in his house. And so she's like kind of going through the house to try and get out, and she finds this little girl, and he's got a daughter. He's a single dad, and she isn't his birth, like he's not, sorry, it's not her birth father. He actually adopted her. She had, her parents had died like in this really tragic fire, and he happened to like go in there to rescue, see what's going on. He heard a baby crying and he took her. And so he just decided that she was his. So I really love that, like, part of him. Like, that really made him so lovable in a way, even though he's very alpha and domineering, because he is like the head of the mafia. He needs to get married to become the head of the mafia right now for the Italian mafia. And he, like, there's just a lot going on with that. But when he discovers her in his house, he basically kind of forced her into like an arranged marriage to marry him. I think they were like going to say for like a year or whatever, just so he could kind of get what he needed and all of that. And so she kind of goes into this thinking in name only, but he's like got other plans of like, we are going to be married and hook up and stuff. And so they end up having a lot of good chemistry together, and they instantly are going for it. So this is very insta lust, insta love. My biggest complaint, I really enjoyed this, but there was an issue that I had, and my biggest issue is how fast we went to her having sex, when she had been sex trafficked for 9 years. Like, I think she would have way more trauma to work through than to just immediately being okay with banging Michael. Like, I just do think that we needed time to work through that. And I thought they would have had a slower burn and them working through that together. That would have been more emotional for me. Otherwise, I really enjoyed this. I do think because I listened to this on audiobook, it was narrated by Teddy Hamilton and Callie Dalton. And Teddy kind of, I love Teddy. I love him. So the audiobook was just fantastic, and Teddy probably made me love it more than if I was like physically reading it, if that makes sense. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars and 3.5 chilies. Then I had a wild read. I wanted to read a cartel, and I haven't really read a ton of cartel. And K Webster has a bunch of books that are going up on KU now, which is great. I'm so glad that she's finally able to get more of her books out there so that people can read them instead of, the issues that she has with some of this bullshit big band. But she has a cartel romance called El Malo. And I'm probably butchering that. Sorry. Total white girl. I apologize if I butcher how to say that. Good. Just ignore me. Anyways, I got this on KU, and this is between Javier Estrada. He is the head of the cartel, and Rosa. And Rosa actually is his like head maid in his household. She is actually undercover. She is a CIA undercover agent, and her goal, since her mother was killed from these criminal types like him, her goal was to go after all of these criminals in Mexico and all these, bring them down. So that's like her driving force. And she has been working for 4 years undercover. And then randomly out of nowhere, he just notices her and becomes obsessed with her, which I thought was just a little bit crazy. She's been there 4 years. Why didn't he care about her before? But anyways, she has like her handler that she's in a relationship with, even though like it seems really one-sided. This was the part that I had issues with in this book, because she is such a badass CIA agent, able to handle herself, but she was such a weak ass bitch when it came to men, and it made her just, look at her like she's a little weak to me. Because this handler guy, he like, obviously he's like kind of gross too. He sounds like he's like overweight, has a beer belly, balding, and she's like so like invested in him, and like they get to meet, to go over her check-ins with him, and then they'll have sex. And it's not great sex, but she still feels so connected to him. And I feel like it was probably grooming on his part. And also, like, she has nobody. She's under this undercover role. So I could kind of understand that, because she's very lonely. And so she needs that kind of connection. But I just hated it, because there was one point where she showed up and this, like, prostitute was leaving his place. And he was like, we're not a thing, and totally gives her attitude. And then she ends up forgiving him instantly in that same thing and is like cuddling with him. And I'm like, grow a fucking backbone, bitch. Anyways, so that was my one hang up. I was having a really hard time with this character, but I loved Javier. He was, so badass. I mean, there is some major violence in this book. I know it's Mafia, everybody expects it, but it was pretty bad. And he tortures, he's brutally tortures. The torture he did was so it was tough. So I will say, trigger warning again, for obviously there's a lot of trigger warnings actually. Did I write them down? Okay, yeah, I did. I'll go over the trigger warnings in a bit. But basically, she gets into a relationship with Javier. He becomes obsessed with her, and he's immediately you're mine. I'm making you mine. And he does. He's very possessive, and they really get into this amazing sexual relationship. And she's falling for him. But again, she's keeping this massive secret. And I guess it just annoys me when these massive undercover secret things are taken to the very end of the book. It kind of irritates me. But so of course, that's the third act issue will happen. But I actually like the way it was handled, how he does find out and what happens because of it. I thought that was unique and not what I was expecting. So I did appreciate that. I think my main issue is with the heroine being a doormat to that one handler guy. And I fucking hated it. I hated how that guy treated her. So it was good. Didn't blow me away, but I had a good time with it. So I gave that one 4 stars and 4 chilies because it is really spicy. K Webster, she always brings some good hot spice. So definitely a good time with that. Now, again, the trigger warnings, there is a sexual assault in this. So just be prepared on page. Extreme torture, cheating, violence, murder, all the mafia stuff that you usually expect. So had a good time, but Okay, so then I had an ALC, and this is actually our buddy read. So I don't know if I want to go too deep into it, but I will bring it up here because I do have an ALC for it, and I want to be able to provide that review, here, and then I'll be posting it on my Instagram and everything. Actually, when this airs, I believe it's going to be releasing on the 12th, so it should be releasing today if you're watching this video on Monday. But this is Beautiful Mess by Ashley James, or A. James. This is the second book in the Blossom Beach series. I actually got the ALC for the first book and really enjoyed it. Very cute, small town, cute vibes. This one is between Conway and Grace, and this is an ex-boyfriend's dad, age gap, kind of romance. So I'm always gonna jump on if it's an ex-boyfriend's dad. It's one of my favorite tropes. So in this, we have Grace, and when she was 20, she was with his son for years, kind of high school sweethearts. And when she was 20, she basically found out he cheated on her, and she ends things. And so she ends up going to this bar and is kind of getting drunk and just very upset. And Conway, his father, shows up and sees her there, and he knows she's underage, first off, and then she's drinking. And so he was like, hey, let me get you home, blah, blah, blah. She took that to mean hey, let's go home together. So she was a little drunk and totally misunderstood the vibes of his request. And so when they pull up in front of her house, she's like, oh, that's weird. But they live next door, I think, to each other. And so she ends up kind of making a move on him and trying to kiss him. And he's just floored. He's like, no, you're my son's girlfriend. I can't do that with you. And kind of rejects her. So from that, she was devastated and embarrassed, and she has a lot of pride issues. So she ends up holding a grudge and kind of hates him for years, which I found a little over the top. But so it's been 14 years since that happened. So she's mature. She's 34 years old when we're in the current storyline here, and she owns her own business. She owns her own bakery, and she had been previously married and has kids and everything. They're divorced, but in a good situation. And she ends up getting paired up with Conway for a PTA thing where they're going to have to work together for the year. And so she's very bratty about it and doesn't want to work with him. And she hates him because of everything. And that immediately churns because Conway's pretty attracted to her. And with them having to work together, he basically makes the moves pretty quickly. And they start going after it. So one thing that I'll say is this is a lot of smut. So this is a lot of smut, a smutty book basically, because they're already like hooking up at 30%. I would have wanted a little bit more of a slow burn, but they're hooking up immediately and really getting into like their sexual relationship and diving in there. But you know, they're kind of keeping it a secret. And you know, then his son ends up coming back to town because he was married. Now he's getting divorced, just living with his dad. And that adds complications because they want to hook up and now the son's there and then he's kind of flirting with her. And so that adds a whole other dynamic to it. So I enjoyed this. I will give you my rating. Hopefully you'll still watch our live show, but I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I did think they hooked up way too fast. It was too centered around sex to me. I wanted a little bit more intimacy of them like falling in love. Now there is some daddy kink in there, or a lot of daddy kink, but it's light daddy kink. He just likes her calling him daddy and all of that. And that just got kind of a little old for me, but it wasn't too heavy on the daddy kink, so it should be fine. But just want to warn you, there is definitely some daddy kink in this. But yeah, so I don't know. It was good. It just didn't pull me away again. I had a lot of books that were just solid this week. So I enjoyed it. And then this one was narrated by Alex Kidd and CJ Bloom. I believe this was duet narration too. And Alex Kidd did an amazing job because Conway has a dirty mouth. He has a lot of dirty talk. A lot of, you know, there's amazing, you know, spicy scenes in this that got hot for sure. So a really great audiobook. I listened to it in one day, flew through it, had a good time. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars and then 3.5 chilies. Okay, so, and I believe that live show is going to be on my channel. Not I believe, I know it's on my channel, but I think it's May 18th. So it's going to be next weekend, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you guys want to show up for the live show, we'd love to see you. Okay, so the last book that I read, we're finally here. I listened to Devourer of Men by Nikki St. Crowe. This is the first book in the Devourer. I don't know if it's a duet or a series. I think it might just be a duet. But Must Love Audio gave me the ALC for the second part of it. So they also offered this, kind of like an ALC or intro with this one. And so I was able to also listen to this. So this is, if you read her other series, I can't remember what it's called, I'm sorry, but it's kind of like a Peter Pan retelling, reverse harem type of situation. And this is kind of like another series connected to that because this is like with the Crocodile, Hook, and Wendy Darling. And so the Croc his name's Rock, and then we have James Hook. And so it's going to be them. They're looking for Wendy Darling because Wendy Darling has been missing. They don't know if she was killed or whatever. That's the actual like Wendy Darling, the mother of the one from the previous series. And so we kind of heard, I haven't read that series for a really long time, so I forgot a lot, but we had kind of heard about her mother and then like her situation with the Hook and stuff. So, but I don't remember a lot because I haven't read it in a while. And so we're kind of thrown right into this where Rock and Hook decide to team up, even though they're enemies. The Hook, his hand was taken by Rock. Like Rock can transform and change into like this beast like crocodile thing, and that's the Devourer of Men. So he's pretty badass, and I really loved his character. He was so flirty and like bad boy vibes. I loved him. Honestly, Hook came off like kind of like British, like I don't know, straight laced kind of guy, which I wouldn't imagine for Hook, but I don't know. My thing with this, so they are teaming up together. They're trying to find Wendy. They've got some clues, and they're on a trail to find her. And where they find her is in this kingdom, and she is like the queen, which is a surprise, and all of that kind of stuff. So I won't go into that. But they definitely have some major chemistry together, and they start to kind of mess around a little bit. They're very attracted to each other. Loved that part of this. I will say that I don't really know the history of Wendy Darling and Hook and Rock. I felt like it was alluded to. I don't know if there was a previous book that went deep into their history, but I felt like I was missing a lot because I didn't really know what happened to them in the past. Like what happened to make them not be together. I think Hook was the father of her baby, who ends up being the heroine from the other series. But like, I don't really know the whole story of like what happened, because she was involved with Rock and Hook at times. So I don't know. I might be completely missing something, but I felt like I was missing a whole backstory in this book that I just kind of wanted. So I wanted more of their dynamics, of them coming together, of them like talking about their past or something, so that it could kind of clue me into like what happened in the past. So that was the kind of thing that was kind of like for me, but I still really enjoyed this. It is super quick. I listened to it very fast. The audiobook had, I believe, I forgot to write it here, but hold on, let me find out who narrated this. Okay, so this was narrated by Shane East. He plays Hook, and Robert Hatchett, and he was Rock, and then we have Stella Hunter as Wendy. So this was very spicy, although the spice was kind of like spare. Honestly, the hottest scenes were between Rock and Hook. Like that's where I was living. I didn't care as much about their thing with Wendy. So, but that's me. I love MM the most, so that's probably how I feel. But this one ends on a cliffhanger, so I'll probably be starting the next one probably tomorrow or something. But I ended up giving this 4 stars and 3 chilies. Just kind of wanted more of the past, so I didn't feel like I was missing a lot. Maybe they'll dive into that in the second part. We'll see. Okay, so those were my books from this last week. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you joined the Mafia, how many books you read for the Mafia, or your favorite one. Appreciate hearing from you guys. I had a great time with Mafia Readathon. As always, it's so much fun. And I think I read 8 books. I think I read 8 books for the Mafia Readathon, so that was fantastic. Anyways, thank you so much, and I will see you guys on the next one.